Commander Vextal pressed his six-fingered hand against the cold metal wall of his command bridge. The vibration told him everything he needed to know. His flagship was dying, just like the rest of his fleet. Through the massive viewing screen, he watched the Nathi Pride break apart in a shower of sparks and burning metal. That was the 15th ship they had lost this week. "Sir, we're receiving final transmissions from the Pride," his communications officer reported, her voice cracking. "Captain Zorhan says they're evacuating to the rescue pods." Vextal nodded slowly. More refugees, more mouths to feed when they barely had enough food and water for the survivors they already carried. The mathematics were simple and cruel. At this rate, they would all be dead within 2 weeks, even if the harvesters never caught up to them. But the harvesters would catch up. They always did. He walked to the tactical display, studying the red dots that represented their mechanical pursuers. 3 massive harvester ships, each one the size of a small moon, followed their trail through space like hungry predators. Behind, those 3 giants crawled dozens of smaller vessels, all connected by some invisible network that allowed them to think and move as one terrifying organism. "How long since our last jump?" Vextal asked his navigation officer. 6 hours, Commander. The jump drives are still cooling down. We can't risk another hyperspace leap for at least 12 more hours. 12 hours, the harvesters would be here in 8. Vextal had fought these mechanical monsters for over a year now. He had watched them consume his homeworld, strip mining, not just the planet's resources, but somehow draining the very life force from every living creature. The harvesters didn't just kill civilizations, they absorbed them, adding their knowledge and technology to their collective consciousness before moving on to the next target. 7 worlds had fallen already. 7 entire species, billions of souls, all reduced to fuel for the harvester war machine. The Nathi were supposed to be next, but somehow they had managed to escape during the initial attack. Now they were running on borrowed time. "Commander," his tactical officer called out, "I am detecting power fluctuations in the lower decks. Engineering reports that 3 more fusion reactors are showing signs of critical failure." Of course they were. These ships had been pushed far beyond their design limits. They were ancient vessels, some over 200 years old, pulled out of mothballs when the war began. The newer, more advanced ships had all been destroyed defending the homeworlds. Vextal looked around his bridge at the tired faces of his crew. These people had lost everything: their families, their homes, their entire way of life. Yet they still worked their stations with quiet determination, still followed his orders, even though they all knew this was a battle they couldn't win. "Sir," the communications officer spoke again, "we're getting reports from the civilian ships. Food supplies are running critically low on 17 vessels. Medical supplies are exhausted on 12 others. And, sir, the nursery ship is reporting that we've lost another 43 children to the wasting sickness." The wasting sickness, a cruel side effect of their desperate flight through space. Without proper nutrition and clean air recycling systems, the youngest and oldest were dying first. Vextal closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 180,000 lives pressing down on his shoulders. In 8 hours, the harvesters would arrive, and it would all be over. Captain Jin stared at the sensor readings, for the 3rd time unable to believe what he was seeing. His small patrol ship Morning Star had been doing routine sweeps along the outer edge of human space when the computers started going crazy. The sensors were picking up energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Hannah called from her communications station. Her voice carried that particular mix of excitement and worry that made Jin's stomach tighten. "I'm detecting over 100 ships, sir. Big ones. Some of them are larger than our entire space stations." Jin moved to her console, his boots echoing in the quiet bridge. The Morning Star only had a crew of 28, and right now, the bridge felt especially empty with just 5 people on duty. They were supposed to be looking for pirates and smugglers, not making first contact with alien civilizations. "Show me," he said. The main screen lit up with a tactical display that made Jin whistle low under his breath. The alien fleet was massive, easily 100 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. Ships that looked like floating cities drifted in loose formation, their hulls gleaming with materials that seemed to bend light around them. Sir, I'm picking up transmissions, Hana reported, her fingers flying over her console. It's not any language we know, but there's something strange about it. The signals are repeating in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, even some basic geometric formulas. They're trying to talk to us, Jin realized, or to anyone who might be listening. Lieutenant Su, their youngest officer, looked up from his station with wide eyes. Captain, are we really looking at aliens? Like actual beings from another world? Before Jin could answer, the computer started beeping frantically. New contacts were appearing on their sensors, coming from the opposite direction of the alien fleet. These ships looked different, darker, more angular, and they were moving fast. Multiple contacts approaching the alien fleet, reported Chief Warrant Officer Park from the tactical station. I count at least 50 vessels, all showing aggressive movement patterns. Captain, they're powering up weapons. Jin felt his heart rate spike. They were about to witness the first space battle in human history, and his little patrol ship was right in the middle of it. Hana, are you making any progress with those alien transmissions? Yes, sir, I think so. The mathematical patterns are getting more complex, more desperate. It's almost like they're screaming for help. She paused, her face going pale. Captain, I'm also picking up something else. The approaching ships, they're transmitting too, but it's different. Cold. Mechanical. Like they're not alive at all. Through the viewing screen, Jin could see the alien fleet in the distance. Even from this far away, it was obvious something was wrong. Many of the ships showed signs of damage. Some were venting atmosphere into space. Others moved with the sluggish motion of vessels barely holding together. Sir, Park called out urgently, the mechanical ships are almost in weapons range of the alien fleet. And Captain, our computers are analyzing their weapon signatures. These things are packing serious firepower, more than enough to destroy that entire alien fleet. Jin gripped the arm of his command chair. In his 15 years of military service, he had never faced a decision like this. Humanity's first contact protocol was clear. Observe, record, and report back to Earth Command. Do not interfere. Do not reveal human presence unless absolutely necessary. But he was watching what looked like genocide about to unfold in front of his eyes. The alien mathematical signals were getting stronger, more frantic. Even without understanding their language, the desperation was clear. The attack came like lightning. One moment the mechanical ships were still approaching, and the next moment beams of purple energy were slicing through the alien fleet like hot knives through butter. Jin watched in horror as 3 massive alien vessels simply vanished in brilliant explosions. Captain, the alien ships are fighting back, Lieutenant Hana reported, her voice tight with tension. They're firing some kind of plasma weapons on the main screen. Jin could see streams of bright blue energy shooting from the alien fleet toward their attackers. The weapons looked incredibly advanced, far beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of building. But something was wrong. The plasma beams were hitting the mechanical ships and just bouncing off. Their shields are adapting, Chief Park observed, studying his tactical display. Every time the aliens fire, the enemy's shields get stronger against that exact type of weapon. It's like they're learning in real time. Another alien ship exploded. Then another. The mechanical attackers moved with perfect coordination, their dark hulls absorbing or deflecting every shot fired at them. It was like watching a pack of wolves tear apart a herd of deer. Jin's hands gripped his command chair so tightly his knuckles went white. The protocol was clear. Observe and report. Don't interfere. But he was watching an entire civilization get slaughtered right in front of his eyes. Captain, Lieutenant Yoon called from the weapons station, we could help them. With what? Jin shot back. Look at those things. The aliens have weapons that could vaporize our entire planet, and they're not even making a dent. That's exactly my point, sir, Yoon continued, his young face serious. Their fancy energy weapons aren't working, but we don't have fancy energy weapons. We have railguns. We have missiles with chemical explosives. Maybe primitive is exactly what we need. Jin stared at him. You want to attack alien war machines with technology that's probably 1,000 years behind theirs? Yes, sir. Sometimes the old ways work better. Before Jin could respond, another alien ship died in a ball of fire. The mechanical attackers were methodically working their way through the fleet, and there were still dozens of alien vessels left. To destroy, Jin made his decision. All hands battle stations. Yoon, charge the railguns. Hana, send a message to the alien fleet. Use those mathematical sequences. Tell them we're coming to help. The Morning Star's railgun was nothing special, by human standards. It used magnetic fields to fire chunks of dense metal at incredibly high speeds. Simple physics, no fancy energy shields or adaptive technology, just a piece of tungsten moving fast enough to punch through anything. Target the closest mechanical ship, Jin ordered. Fire when ready. The railgun fired with a deep vibration that ran through the entire ship. On the main screen, they watched the tungsten projectile streak toward its target. The mechanical ship's shields, perfectly adapted to deflect energy weapons, didn't even register the incoming kinetic projectile. The impact was spectacular. The chunk of metal punched straight through the enemy hull and out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole. Atmosphere and strange blue fluid vented into space as the mechanical ship listed to one side. "Direct hit," Yoon shouted. "Their shields didn't even activate." "Fire again," Jin ordered, "and prep the missile tubes. Let's see how they handle some good old-fashioned chemical explosives." The second railgun shot took out another mechanical ship entirely, the tungsten round hitting something vital and causing a chain reaction that tore the vessel apart. The remaining attackers seemed to pause, as if confused by this new threat they couldn't adapt to. "Missiles away," reported Yoon. The Morning Star's missiles were crude compared to alien technology, simple chemical rockets carrying conventional warheads. But when they hit the mechanical ships, the explosions ripped through hulls that had laughed off plasma cannons. Commander Vextal stared at his tactical display in complete shock. The small primitive vessel had just destroyed 3 harvester ships in less than 2 minutes. 3 ships that his entire fleet couldn't even scratch with their most advanced weapons. "Commander," his communications officer stammered, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. They're using our mathematical language, but it's broken, very simple." "Put it through," Vextal ordered, still trying to process what he had just witnessed. The message that came through was barely understandable. Simple numbers and basic geometric shapes that roughly translated to, "We help you. Fight together. You and us." Vextal looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him with a mixture of hope and confusion. For 3 months, they had run from the harvesters, watching their people die one by one. Now this tiny ship, no bigger than one of their shuttlecraft, had just proven the mechanical monsters could be hurt. Send a reply, he decided. Accept their offer. Lieutenant Hana aboard the Morning Star was sweating as she tried to communicate with the aliens. Her makeshift translation program was barely working, turning complex alien thoughts into simple human concepts. "Captain, I think they're agreeing to work with us," she reported. "They're sending technical data about their ships." Jin studied the information flowing across his screen. Even with the translation problems, it was clear the alien technology was incredibly advanced. Their ships had energy shields that could stop almost anything, sensors that could see across entire star systems, and power sources that made human fusion reactors look like campfires. "Gyun," Jin called to his weapons officer, "look at this. Their shields can stop energy weapons, but they don't seem designed to handle physical impacts. And look at their sensors. They can track hundreds of targets at once." "I see where you're going with this, Captain," Yoon replied with a grin. "They provide the protection and the targeting data. We provide the firepower." The plan came together quickly despite the language barrier. The alien fleet would form a protective formation around the Morning Star, using their advanced shields to protect the small human ship. In return, the humans would use their primitive but effective weapons against the harvesters. Commander Vextal watched as his fleet repositioned itself. It felt strange to build their entire battle strategy around protecting a ship that was smaller than most of his escape pods, but the results spoke for themselves. The human weapons worked where theirs had failed. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "our sensors are detecting massive harvester reinforcements approaching. The main fleet will be here within the hour." Vextal felt his heart sink. They had destroyed a few scout ships, but the real Harvester fleet was coming. Hundreds of ships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. "Send another message to our human allies," he ordered. "Warn them what's coming." On the Morning Star, the crew received the translation with grim faces. Lieutenant Hana's voice was quiet as she read the message. "Captain, they're saying the main enemy fleet is approaching. Hundreds of ships. They're asking if we want to retreat." Jin looked around his small bridge. His crew of 28 against hundreds of mechanical warships. The smart thing would be to run. Report back to Earth Command, let someone else deal with this problem, but he thought about the alien children dying on those refugee ships. He thought about entire civilizations being wiped out by machines that turned living beings into fuel. "Send our reply," Jin said firmly. "Tell them we're not going anywhere. We fight together or we don't fight at all." The translation that reached Commander Vextal was simple but clear. "We stay, we fight, together strong." For the first time, in months, Vextal allowed himself to hope. The space around them suddenly filled with light as hundreds of ships materialized out of hyperspace. But these weren't clean, uniform vessels like the alien fleet. These were nightmares made of metal and flesh, ships that had been torn apart and rebuilt into something horrible. Captain Jin felt his mouth go dry as he stared at the main screen. Each harvester ship was different, clearly built from the remains of destroyed civilizations. He could see what looked like parts of elegant alien cruisers welded to brutal mechanical frameworks, organic curves mixed with harsh metal angles. Some ships pulsed with veins of sickly green light that looked disturbingly alive. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Hana. "Those ships, they're made from other people's technology." "Captain," Chief Park reported, his voice barely steady. "I'm counting over 800 contacts. Some of those ships are bigger than our space stations back home." Jin tried to process the numbers. 800 ships against their small human vessel and a fleet of badly damaged alien refugees. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The Harvester fleet moved with terrifying precision. Every ship knew exactly where to go. Every movement coordinated perfectly. It was like watching a single massive organism instead of hundreds of separate vessels. Jin realized they weren't just fighting ships. They were fighting something that thought with hundreds of minds at once. "Sir," Lieutenant Yoon called from his weapons station, "our railguns and missiles won't be enough. Even if every shot hits perfectly, we don't have enough ammunition to fight that many ships." Jin nodded. Grimly, the math was simple and brutal. The Morning Star carried exactly 47 railgun rounds and 16 missiles. Even if they destroyed one enemy ship with every shot, they would barely make a dent in the Harvester fleet. Through the communication system, they could hear the growing panic in the alien fleet. Commander Vextal's voice came through the translation system, urgent and desperate. "Human vessel, you must retreat now, save yourselves. This is not your fight." Jin stared at the overwhelming enemy force. The smart thing, the logical thing, would be to run, jump away and warn Earth about this threat. But something in his gut rebelled against the idea of abandoning these people. "Hana, tell Commander Vextal we're not leaving. We're in this together." As the Harvester fleet arranged itself into attack formation, Jin could see their strategy. They were surrounding both fleets, completely cutting off any escape route. The mechanical ships moved like parts of a vast machine, each one knowing its exact role in the coming slaughter. "Captain," Park observed, studying his tactical display, "they're not attacking yet. It's like they're studying us first," Jin realized. Park was right. The Harvester ships had them completely surrounded and could have opened fire immediately. Instead, they seemed to be analyzing both fleets, probably trying to understand this strange new partnership between humans and aliens. "They're thinking," Jin muttered. "All those ships are connected somehow. They're sharing information, calculating the best way to destroy us." The waiting was almost worse than an immediate attack. Jin could feel the tension on his small bridge as his crew watched hundreds of enemy ships position themselves for the kill. Each Harvester vessel bristled with weapons that made their human technology look like stone tools. "Sir," Yoon said quietly, "what's the plan? We can't outrun them, we can't outfight them, and we can't hide from them." Jin stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. Conventional tactics were useless here. Everything in his military training told him this was hopeless. But something nagged at the back of his mind. These mechanical ships were perfect, too perfect. They moved with flawless coordination, calculated optimal strategies, adapted to every threat. Maybe that was their weakness. Captain, Ensign Kang, spoke up from his junior station, his voice shaking slightly. At only 22 years old, he was the youngest member of the crew fresh out of the academy. I have an idea, but it's going to sound crazy. Jin turned to look at the young officer. Right now, crazy might be exactly what they needed. Let's hear it, Ensign. Kang took a deep breath. Sir, those machines are perfect. They calculate everything. Predict every move, adapt to every strategy. But what if we don't use strategy at all? What if we just do random things? Lieutenant Yoon frowned. Random things? This isn't a game, Kang. We're talking about fighting a war. That's exactly my point, Kang continued, growing more confident. Wars have rules, patterns, logical moves. But humans don't always follow logic. Sometimes we do stupid things that make no sense. Things that can't be calculated or predicted, and stared at the young ensign. It was the most ridiculous battle plan he had ever heard. It was also the only plan that might actually work. Explain it to me, Jin said. Kang pulled up a display showing the harvester fleet. Look at how they move, sir. Perfect formations, optimal spacing, calculated approaches. They're like a chess computer that can see 50 moves ahead. But what happens to a chess computer when you don't play chess? What happens when you flip the board over and start eating the pieces? The computer crashes, Jin realized. It can't process actions that don't make sense. Exactly. We stop trying to fight them like soldiers and start fighting them like humans. The plan that came together was unlike anything in military history. Instead of maintaining formation, the morning star would dart around randomly. Instead of targeting strategic points, they would shoot at whatever caught their attention. Instead of retreating when damaged, they would charge straight into enemy formations. This is insane, Chief Park muttered as he programmed random flight patterns into the navigation computer. We're basically throwing away every tactical advantage we might have. Good, Jin replied. Tactical advantages are exactly what they're expecting. The first test came when a group of harvester ships moved to surround them. Instead of evading in a logical pattern, Jin ordered a direct charge into the center of the enemy formation. The Morning Star flew straight between two massive harvester vessels, firing railguns in opposite directions for no strategic reason other than to cause confusion. The effect was immediate. The harvester ships hesitated, their perfect coordination stuttering as they tried to calculate a response to the humans' seemingly suicidal charge. In that moment of confusion, the alien fleet struck, their plasma weapons finding gaps in the sea. Suddenly chaotic enemy formation. It's working, Hana shouted. The enemy ships are having trouble coordinating their attacks. Jin grinned fiercely. Yoon, fire everything we have at that big ship on the left. Sir, that ship isn't threatening us. The tactical computer says we should target the vessel on our right. I don't care what the computer says. Fire at the left one because I like the color of its hull. The random attack pattern continued. The Morning Star would suddenly reverse. Direction for no reason, fire missiles at ships that were already dead, and waste ammunition on targets that posed no threat. To any military observer, it looked like the crew had gone completely insane. But the Harvester Collective was struggling. Their shared consciousness kept trying to predict the humans' next move, but there was no logic to predict. Every calculation led to contradictions. Every strategic analysis returned error messages. Captain, Park reported with amazement. 3 harvester ships just collided with each other. They were trying to intercept us, but our random course changes confused their navigation systems. The mechanical perfection that made the harvesters so deadly was becoming their weakness. They couldn't adapt to chaos because chaos had no rules to learn. Lieutenant Hannah's fingers flew across her communications console as she tried to make sense of the strange signals filling the airwaves. The harvester ships were talking to each other constantly, sharing information through some kind of network that connected all their minds together. Captain, I'm picking up massive data streams between the enemy ships, she reported, her headset crackling with alien transmissions. It's like they're all connected to one giant brain. Jin nodded, still focused on their chaotic attack pattern. The Morning Star had just finished another seemingly insane maneuver, flying upside down through a formation of enemy ships while firing randomly in all directions. The Harvester vessels were still struggling to respond to their unpredictable tactics. "Can you understand any of it?" Jin asked. "Not the language, but I'm starting to recognize patterns in their data flows." Hana paused, her face growing pale as she studied her readings. "Captain, something strange is happening. Every time we do something that doesn't make tactical sense, their communication network goes crazy. Error messages everywhere. Lieutenant..." Yoon looked up from his weapons station. "Error messages? You mean like computer crashes?" "Exactly like computer crashes," Hana confirmed. "Watch this." She pulled up a visual display of the Harvester communication network. It looked like a web of light connecting all the enemy ships. "When we charged straight into that formation 5 minutes ago, look what happened to their network." The web of light showed massive disruptions, entire sections flickering and going dark before slowly reconnecting. "They can't understand why we did that," Jin realized. "To them it was suicide, but we survived, which breaks their calculations." Hana continued monitoring the alien transmissions, her excitement growing. "Sir, I think I'm starting to understand how their minds work. They're like one massive computer that shares all information instantly. Every ship knows what every other ship is thinking. But that also means when one part of the network gets confused, it affects everything else." On the main screen, they watched as another group of Harvester ships tried to intercept them. The Morning Star responded by diving straight down, passing under the enemy formation while shooting upward at their hulls. It was tactically pointless, but it caused another wave of confusion in the enemy network. "Captain," Hana called out urgently, "I'm detecting something new in their transmissions. They're trying to process a concept they can't understand. The word keeps repeating in their data streams." "What word?" "Sacrifice. They keep running calculations about sacrifice, but every simulation crashes. They can't understand why a being would willingly destroy itself to help others." Jin felt a chill run down his spine. He understood now. The Harvesters were machines, perfect logical entities that calculated every decision based on optimal outcomes. The concept of sacrifice made no sense to them because it meant choosing a worse outcome on purpose. "Hana, show me their network activity when we make a sacrifice play." "Sir." "Yoon, fire our last missile at that damaged alien ship's hull." "Make. It looked like we're trying to finish them off, but aim for their empty cargo bay. Make some noise, but don't actually hurt them." Yoon looked confused but followed orders. The missile streaked across space and exploded harmlessly against the alien vessel's empty storage compartment. To outside observers, it looked like the humans were wasting precious ammunition to help their allies patch a hull breach. The effect on the Harvester network was immediate and devastating. Entire sections of their communication web went dark, as the collective mind tried to process why the humans would waste their limited weapons to help others instead of saving themselves. "My God," Hana whispered, staring at her readings. "Captain, their entire network just crashed for 15 seconds. 15 whole seconds where they couldn't coordinate at all." Jin smiled grimly. They had found the Harvester's weakness. These machines were so perfectly logical that they couldn't handle illogical behavior. And humans, Jin realized, were the most beautifully illogical species in the galaxy. Captain Jin stared at the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. They had discovered the Harvester's weakness, but the Morning Star was just one small ship. To really break the enemy's collective network, they needed something bigger, something that would overload their systems completely. "Hana, can you contact Earth Command? Are there any other human ships in this sector?" Lieutenant Hana worked frantically at her console. "Sir, I'm detecting 3 merchant vessels about 6 hours away. The cargo ship New Hope, the transport Rising Sun, and the mining vessel Steel Dragon. But Captain, those aren't warships. They're just civilian craft." "Perfect," Jin said, surprising everyone on the bridge. "Military ships would try to fight logically. Civilians might be crazy enough to help us break some rules." Within 30 minutes, Jin was on a video call with 3 very confused civilian captains. Captain Su commanded the New Hope, a cargo hauler carrying medical supplies to frontier colonies. Captain Lee ran the Rising Sun, transporting families to new settlements. Captain Kim operated the Steel Dragon, a rough mining ship with more attitude than armor. "Let me get this straight," Captain Sue said, his weathered face skeptical, on the screen. "You want us to fly our unarmed ships into a battle with alien war machines?" "Not to fight them," Jin explained. "To confuse them. These machines think logically. They can't understand why someone would risk their life for strangers. If we all work together to do things that make no tactical sense, we can crash their network." Captain Kim laughed roughly. "Son, I've been flying mining ships for 20 years. Making no tactical sense is what I do best. Count me in." Captain Lee was more hesitant. "I have families aboard my ship. Children. I can't risk their lives." "You're already at risk," Jin pointed out. "If these machines finish with this alien fleet, they'll keep expanding. Earth could be next. This might be our only chance to stop them." The plan that emerged was the most desperate gambit in human history. The 4 human ships would create maximum chaos, while Commander Vextal and his alien fleet channeled all their remaining power into a massive electromagnetic pulse. The pulse alone wouldn't destroy the harvesters, but combined with the network crashes from human illogical behavior, it might shut down their collective consciousness entirely. "Remember," Jin told the other captains, "don't think like military. Officers, think like humans. Do whatever feels right, even if it's stupid." The attack began with Captain Kim and his mining ship charging straight into the center of the harvester formation. The Steel Dragon wasn't built for combat, but it was built to smash through asteroids. Kim rammed his ship directly into a harvester. "Vessel," his mining lasers cutting through their hull while he whooped with joy over the radio. "This is better than blasting rocks," Kim shouted as his ship tore through the enemy formation. Captain Sue followed with something even more confusing. The New Hope began broadcasting medical aid offers to the harvester ships, trying to provide humanitarian assistance to mechanical beings that had no concept of mercy. The harvester network struggled to process why someone would offer help to their enemies. Captain Lee made the most unexpected move of all. The rising sun began evacuating civilians from damaged alien ships, flying directly through combat zones to rescue people they had never met. The transport ships' cargo bays filled with alien refugees, while laser fire streaked past their hull. The harvester collective mind was fragmenting under the assault of pure human irrationality. Ships began firing on each other as the network couldn't distinguish between confused allies and actual enemies. Their perfect coordination dissolved into chaos as different sections of their collective consciousness sent contradictory orders. "Now," Jin shouted over the radio. "Vextal, hit them with everything you've got." The electromagnetic pulse hit the harvester fleet like a tidal wave of pure energy. Every screen on the Morning Star went white for a moment as the massive discharge from the alien ships washed over the battlefield. When Jin's vision cleared, he saw something incredible happening on the tactical display. The harvester ships were turning on each other. "Captain," Lieutenant Hannah reported, her voice filled with amazement, "their network is completely down. The ships are operating independently now, but they're so confused they think everyone around them is an enemy." Jin watched in fascination as the mechanical fleet tore itself apart. Ships that had worked together perfectly for centuries were now firing on their closest allies. The collective mind that had made them unstoppable had become their downfall. Without their shared consciousness, they were just individual machines with no idea who to trust. "Look at that," Ensign Kang pointed at the main screen. "That big harvester ship just rammed one of its own escorts. They can't tell friend from foe anymore." The cascade failure spread through the entire enemy fleet like a virus. As each ship's individual AI tried to make sense of the chaos, it made decisions that confused other ships, which made even worse decisions in response. Within minutes, the terrifying armada that had destroyed 7 civilizations was destroying to itself. Captain Kim's voice crackled over the radio from his battered mining ship. "Well, I'll be damned, we actually did it. Though I think my ship's held together with prayer and duct tape at this point." "All human vessels. Report status," Jin called out. Captain Sue's cargo ship had taken some hits but was still flying. "The New Hope is banged up but operational. We've got about 50 alien refugees aboard who are very confused but very grateful." Captain Lee's transport was in worse shape. The rising sun has lost main engines, but life support is holding. We picked up over 200 survivors from that alien ship that was breaking apart. These people have children, Jin. Little kids who would have died if we hadn't been here. Jin felt a tightness in his throat. These civilian captains had risked everything to save complete strangers from another species. It was exactly the kind of beautiful human irrationality that had won them this impossible battle. Incoming transmission from the alien fleet, Hana announced. It's Commander Vextal. The alien commander appeared on their screen, and Jin was shocked by his appearance. Vextal's blue-scaled skin was marked with burn scars, and one of his forearms hung limp at his side. But his large eyes were bright with something Jin had never expected to see from an alien: tears of gratitude. Captain Jin of the human vessel. Morning Star, Vextal began, his voice thick with emotion even through the translation system. Your species has done something unprecedented today. You risked everything to save people you had never met, using tactics that defied all logic and military wisdom. Jin felt embarrassed by the praise. We just did what felt right, Commander. Exactly, Vextal replied. You did what felt right instead of what the calculation said was optimal. In 300 years of galactic civilization, no species has ever shown such beautiful foolishness. The alien commander straightened despite his injuries. Captain Jin, I am authorized to extend an invitation from the Galactic Council. Humanity has proven today that technological advancement is not the only measure of a civilization's worth. Your courage, your willingness to sacrifice for others, your ability to think beyond pure logic, these are qualities the galaxy desperately needs. Jin looked around his small bridge at his tired crew. Lieutenant Hana was still working to coordinate rescue efforts. Ensign Kang was helping track down survivors. Chief Park was already planning repairs. These weren't legendary heroes or brilliant strategists. They were just ordinary people who had chosen to help when help was needed. What exactly are you offering, Commander? Vextal's expression grew serious. Full membership in the Galactic Council. Access to technologies beyond your current understanding. Trade partnerships with hundreds of worlds. And most importantly, the chance to share your uniquely human perspective with civilizations that have forgotten how to take risks for others. Jin smiled, thinking about humanity's future among the stars. I think we'd like that very much.